Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back into a world shaped by icy winds and the rhythm of the loom, the life of a weaver in a Viking longhouse. You might imagine fierce warriors, horned helmets, and epic voyages across a stormy sea. And while those stories are certainly part of the Viking Age, there was another side just as vital, yet far less dramatic. The daily grind of crafting the very cloth that kept those warriors and everyone else alive. Trust me, being a real Viking weaver was nothing like a glamorous saga. It was repetitive, sometimes tedious, and often very, very cold work. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Now imagine that you have fallen into a deep sleep. But when you wake up tomorrow, you realize that you are in the year 950 CE. Born into a world of wood smoke, animal hides, and the constant hum of industry. You are a weaver, and your days are measured not by the sun's arc, but by the rhythmic thud of the loom and the slow, painstaking progress of thread becoming fabric. As the first pale light of dawn begins to filter through the smoke hole, casting long, wavering shadows across the longhouse, you move to the loom. It stands like a silent sentinel against the far wall, its wooden frame sturdy and familiar. This isn't a gentle pastime. Weaving is the bedrock of your household's survival. The wool, shorn, cleaned, carded, and spun by your own hands, is coarse and smells faintly of lanolin and the wild sheep it came from. Your fingers, despite their early morning stiffness, move with an almost unconscious expertise, threading the weft through the taut warp, pushing it down with the heavy wooden batten. The thud of the batten against the woven fabric is a steady, rhythmic beat, a constant counterpoint to the sounds of the waking longhouse. It's a sound that has defined your days for as long as you can remember, a lullaby of labor. Each thread you lay down is a tiny victory, a tangible step towards a finished piece of cloth that will shield someone from the unforgiving Nordic elements. There's a particular satisfaction in watching the pattern emerge slowly, row by row, a testament to your patience and skill. Historians still debate how much of the pattern weaving in Viking societies was purely aesthetic versus functional. Was it simply to look good, or did certain weaves offer better protection against the cold? For you, it's a bit of both. A well-crafted pattern isn't just beautiful. It speaks of careful work, of strength in the weave, of a textile that will endure. Sometimes the threads snarl or a knot appears, and a prickle of frustration rises. You breathe deeply, reminding yourself that impatience serves no purpose here. This work demands a calm mind and steady hands. You meticulously untangle, rethread, and continue, the rhythmic thud of the batten resuming its soothing cadence. The longhouse slowly fills with the smells of the day, the wood smoke intensifying as more fuel is added to the hearth, the faint aroma of cooking porridge and fermented milk, and the ever-present scent of damp earth and human habitation. You can hear the low chatter of your younger siblings, the soft bleating of a new lamb that was brought inside during the night for warmth, and the distant shouts of men preparing for the day's hunting or farming tasks. Your world is small, contained within these wooden walls, yet within this space you are a vital cog in the machinery of survival. Your work clothes are simple, a tunic and leggings of rough wool, but they are practical, allowing for full range of movement as you lean into the loom, your body swaying slightly with the rhythm of your work. You feel the subtle vibrations of the longhouse around you, the movement of people, the warmth radiating from the central fire, the distant lowing of cattle. All these sensations blend into a single, comforting hum of existence. You pause for a moment, stretching your back, which always seems to ache in the same spot. You glance towards the smoke hole, watching a single ray of sunlight pierce the smoky air, illuminating the motes of dust dancing within its beam. It's a small moment of beauty in a life often devoid of frills. You wonder about the world outside the longhouse, about the distant shores the men sometimes speak of, the places where different kinds of wool might be found, or where the sun might feel warmer on your skin. But these thoughts are fleeting. Your reality is here, at the loom, with the rough wool under your fingers and the steady thud of the batten. This isn't a life of grand adventures or heroic deeds, but it is a life of purpose, of creation, of providing the very fabric that keeps your family and your community sheltered from the biting winds and the endless cold. As the morning stretches on, the rhythm of your weaving becomes almost meditative. Your movements are precise, economical, a dance perfected over years. You push the weft thread through the warp, guiding it into place with your fingers, then bring the heavy wooden batten down with a satisfying thunk. Each thunk is a measure of progress, a step closer to completion. You watch the intricate pattern of the fabric slowly grow beneath your hands, the threads intertwining to form a durable, tight weave. This isn't just any fabric. It's a double weft weave, a technique that makes the cloth incredibly dense and warm, essential for surviving the harsh Nordic winters. It's a time-consuming method, but the resilience it provides is worth every aching muscle and every hour spent bent over the loom. Your mind, though focused on the task, wanders slightly, a common occurrence when performing such repetitive work. You recall the stories told around the fire on long winter nights, sagas of heroes and gods, but also practical tales of clever farmers and resourceful craftspeople. There was one about a particularly skilled weaver who, it was said, could weave a ship's sail so tight it would shed water like a duck's back, no matter how heavy the storm. You wonder if such tales are true, or if they are simply meant to inspire those of you who spend your lives tethered to the loom. There's a quiet pride in your work, knowing that the cloaks and tunics you produce will keep your family, and perhaps even the warriors who venture out into the world, safe and warm. The light from the smoke hole shifts, indicating that midday is approaching. The smells within the longhouse evolve. The initial raw scents of morning gradually give way to the richer aroma of cooking meat and simmering vegetables, a welcome change. You can hear the sizzle of fat from the central hearth, and your stomach rumbles in anticipation. Your hands, however, don't stop. They continue their methodical dance, the threads sliding through your fingers, the batten rising and falling. Sometimes your knuckles crack as you grip the heavy tool, and a dull ache settles in your shoulders and lower back. It's the price of creation, you tell yourself, a familiar companion in this life. You think about the journey of the wool before it reached your loom. From the sheep grazing on the windswept hills, through the shearing, the arduous washing in cold streams to remove the lanolin and dirt, the painstaking process of carding the fibers until they are soft and aligned, and finally, the hours upon hours spent at the spinning wheel, transforming loose tufts into strong, continuous threads. Each step is a labor of love, a testament to the interconnectedness of your community. Everyone has their role, and yours, though quiet, is as essential as any. There's a debate among some of the elders about the best time to shear the sheep for the finest wool. Some argue for spring, after the harshest winter has passed, while others insist on midsummer, claiming the longer daylight hours produce a healthier fleece. For you, as long as the wool arrives, you're ready to transform it. You finish another section of the fabric, admiring the consistency of the weave, a small personal triumph in the quiet hum of the Longhouse. The midday meal brings a brief respite from the loom. You join your family around the central hearth, where the air is warmer and the scent of roasted meat, perhaps a freshly caught fish or a portion of smoked wild boar, mingles with the ever-present wood smoke. You dip a piece of coarse, dark bread into the communal stew, the taste of salt and herbs a comforting warmth on your tongue. The conversation is low, practical news of the hunt, the state of the crops, plans for repairing a leaky section of the roof. You listen more than you speak, your mind still half engaged with the intricate patterns you've been weaving. Even as you eat, your fingers subtly flex, a phantom echo of the movements at the loom after the meal, a brief period for chores before returning to your primary duty. You might help with fetching water from the nearby well, the wooden bucket surprisingly heavy against your shoulder as you carry it back. Or perhaps you'll assist in sorting freshly dried herbs, their pungent aromas filling a corner of the Longhouse, a fragrant counterpoint to the more earthy smells. It's a constant cycle of tasks, each contributing to the survival and comfort of your family. There's no idleness in this world. Every hand must contribute, every moment accounted for. This shared labor creates a deep, unspoken bond among the Longhouse inhabitants, a sense of collective purpose. As you return to the loom, the afternoon light has brightened slightly, making the threads stand out more clearly. You settle back into the familiar rhythm, your body automatically adjusting to the posture, your hands resuming their intricate dance. The thud of the batten continues, a steady heartbeat in the quiet of the Longhouse. Sometimes one of your younger siblings will come to watch, their eyes wide with curiosity as they observe your nimble fingers. You might teach them a simple knot, or explain the difference between warp and weft, sowing the seeds of knowledge that will one day be their own livelihood. It's a tradition passed down through generations, a silent language spoken through the loom. You consider the dyes you'll use for the next batch of wool. The vibrant reds from madar root, the deep blues from woad, the earthy yellows from heather or onion skins. Each plant carries its own secret, its own method of extraction. The process of dyeing is almost as complex as weaving itself, requiring careful boiling and preparation to ensure the colors are vibrant and lasting. It's a testament to the ingenuity of your people, extracting such beauty from the very earth around them. Some say that the best dyes are made during certain moon phases, a belief that you've heard whispered by the older women, though you've always found that careful preparation and good water were the true secrets. This blend of practical knowledge and folk wisdom is woven into the fabric of your daily life, much like the threads on your loom. The light begins to soften as the afternoon wanes, signaling the approach of evening and the promise of another day's work completed. The afternoon sun dips lower, painting the smoke filtering through the Longhouse with hues of orange and gold. The air grows cooler, and the scent of wood smoke becomes more dominant, a comforting blanket against the chill. Your hands, though tired, continue their precise work at the loom. The rhythmic thud of the batten has become a part of you, an extension of your own pulse. You are deep into the process now, the cloth unfurling beneath your fingers in a long, satisfying strip. You can almost feel the future garments taking shape, a thick cloak for your father, perhaps, or a new tunic for your mother, or even a sturdy sail for a longship, destined for distant shores. The psychological toll of such repetitive work is often overlooked. There are moments of profound boredom, where each thread feels like an insurmountable obstacle, and the pattern seems to crawl forward at an agonizing pace. But then there are also moments of intense focus, where your mind becomes one with the loom, and the act of creation takes over. It's a strange paradox, this blend of tedium and transcendence. You sometimes hum old songs to yourself, soft, almost whispered melodies that only you can hear above the creaks of the Longhouse and the ever-present whisper of the wind. These songs are ancient, passed down through generations, their meanings often lost to time, but their melodies are a comfort, a steady rhythm for your thoughts. You think about the strength of the fibers you are working with. The wool from the local sheep is tough, resilient, able to withstand the harsh weather and the rigors of daily life. It's a stark contrast to the finer, softer wools that some traders speak of, brought from lands far to the south. While those might be pleasant against the skin, they wouldn't offer the same protection against the biting winds and driving snow. There's a certain pride in working with what the land provides, in transforming raw materials into something essential for survival. You remember hearing tales of how Viking women, known for their weaving prowess, would often create patterns so intricate and dense they were almost waterproof, capable of protecting seafarers from the spray of the waves. Whether this was entirely true, or simply a testament to their skill, you knew your own double weft could withstand a good deal of abuse. The sounds around you begin to change as evening approaches. The distant shouts of men grow closer, signaling their return from the fields or the hunt. The crackle of the fire deepens, as more logs are added in preparation for the night. The Longhouse begins to fill with a new kind of energy, a sense of winding down from the day's labors, of gathering together for the evening meal and stories. You know your work will continue for a while longer, even as the light dims further. There's always more to be done, always another length of cloth to weave, another garment to complete. Your hands are aching now, a persistent throb in your wrists and fingers, but you push through it. This is your life, a continuous thread of labor and creation, woven into the larger tapestry of your community's survival. The satisfaction of watching the finished cloth pile up beside the loom is a quiet reward, more potent than any spoken praise. The same rhythmic thud of the batten that fills your ears and vibrates through the Longhouse also echoes, in a way, through the life of a different kind of crafter just a short distance away. While you are lost in the intricate dance of warp and weft, shaping wool into tangible protection against the harsh northern climate, a potter in a nearby settlement is equally immersed in the elemental act of creation. She kneels by her simple wheel, the clay cool and yielding beneath her hands. Her fingers, smeared with gray earth, coax the lump into a symmetrical form, a quiet struggle between her will and the material's inherent resistance. The air in her workshop is damp, heavy with the smell of wet clay and the faint, acrid tang of wood smoke from the firing kiln. The wheel spins with a soft, rhythmic whir, a sound as constant and calming to her as your loom's thunk is to you. She is shaping a storage jar, its belly widening to hold grain or fermented milk, a vessel as essential to sustenance as the cloth you produce is to warmth. Like your textiles, her pottery is not merely decorative. It is born of necessity, a silent testament to human ingenuity in a demanding world. Her knuckles are rough, cracked from the constant contact with moisture and the abrasive clay, Much like your own fingers bear the telltale marks of the loom. Meanwhile, back in the longhouse, you are pausing your weaving only briefly to stretch, watching your mother tending to the simmering stew. The scent of roasted root vegetables and simmering meat fills the air, a rich, savory aroma that promises warmth and sustenance. You watch her hands, gnarled and strong, as she stirs the pot with a wooden ladle, her movements efficient and practiced. This stew, like the cloth you weave, is a product of painstaking effort and centuries of passed-down knowledge. It will nourish bodies, fuel the relentless work, and offer a fleeting moment of comfort in the long, dark evenings. The potter, too, thinks of sustenance. As she finishes a jar, she imagines it filled, perhaps with a harvest of barley or with the honey gathered from wild bees in the nearby woods. She hums a low tune, a working song her grandmother taught her, the melody a simple, repetitive loop that helps her find her flow. Her focus is absolute, a testament to the value placed on skilled craftsmanship in this era. A poorly made pot would crack in the firing or leak, rendering it useless. Just as a loose weave would quickly unravel, offering little protection against the elements. Both of your lives are bound by the unforgiving laws of utility and durability. The biting humor of it all isn't lost on you. You meticulously craft cloth to keep the cold out, and the potter painstakingly shapes clay to keep food in. It's a constant, unending battle against scarcity and nature, fought one thread, one pot at a time. As the potter sets her newly shaped jar on a drying shelf, she feels the familiar ache in her back, a shared burden with every crafter who dedicates their life to shaping the raw materials of the world. The late afternoon light begins to fade, casting longer, softer shadows across the longhouse. The air, once filled with the clamor of daytime activities, settles into a quieter hum. Your work at the loom, however, shows no signs of slowing. Your hands, now thoroughly warmed and supple from hours of repetitive motion, continue their dance. The warp threads, taut and unwavering, receive the weft, pushed into place by the heavy batten. Thunk, thunk, thunk. The sound is a constant companion, a rhythm that has worked its way into your very bones. You find yourself entering a state of deep focus, a kind of waking dream where the world outside the loom recedes. You think about the patterns you are creating. They are not random. Each design, each subtle shift in color or texture carries meaning. Some are traditional family patterns, passed down through generations, signifying lineage and identity. Others might represent a specific tribe or region. Historians still argue about the precise meaning of many Viking textile patterns. Were they purely decorative, or did they encode complex messages, like a silent language understood only by those initiated into its secrets? For you, it's a mix. You know the patterns your mother taught you, and you instinctively weave them, feeling the weight of tradition and the quiet strength of your ancestors guiding your hands. The scent of the longhouse deepens with the encroaching evening. The peat smoke from the hearth is now richer, heavier, clinging to the rough-hewn timbers and your wool clothes. You can smell the faint, animalistic scent of the livestock at the far end of the hall, a comforting reminder of the interdependence of life within these walls. Outside, the wind has picked up, its mournful howl through the chinks in the planks a stark reminder of the untamed world beyond. But within the longhouse, your focus remains on the loom, on the steady progression of thread into fabric. There are moments when the sheer monotony of the work threatens to overwhelm you. Your shoulders ache, your back protests, and your eyes, strained by the dim light, feel gritty. But then you remember the purpose of your labor. This isn't just thread and wood, it's warmth, protection, a barrier against the biting cold that can kill. It's the sail that will carry warriors to distant lands, the cloak that will shelter a child from the rain, the tunic that will keep a farmer alive through the harsh winter. This understanding fuels you, providing a quiet resilience. You might allow yourself a moment of biting humor. They say the gods spin the threads of fate, you muse silently, but I'm pretty sure it's just us mortals with aching backs and splinters in our fingers. It's a harsh life, yes, but one filled with tangible purpose, each stitch a small victory against the odds. As the last sliver of natural light disappears, swallowed by the approaching night, you adjust the oil lamp hanging nearby. Its flickering glow now the sole illumination for your steady, unending work. As twilight deepens into full night, the Longhouse transforms. The light from the central hearth, once a mere highlight in the daytime, now becomes the pulsating heart of your world. Shadows stretch and shrink across the walls, making the familiar shapes of tools and stored goods seem larger, more mysterious. You adjust the flickering oil lamp, its small flame casting a warm, uneven glow directly onto your loom. The air, though still smoky, feels somehow softer, imbued with the quiet rhythm of evening. Your hands, though weary, continue their tireless work. The rhythmic thud of the batten is now amplified in the relative quiet of the Longhouse, a steady, comforting sound that has become almost imperceptible to your conscious mind. You are nearing the end of a long length of cloth, and a surge of quiet satisfaction washes over you. There's a profound sense of accomplishment in seeing the tangible results of your labor pile up beside the loom. This isn't abstract work. It's concrete, vital, and undeniably real. You think about the superstitions and beliefs that permeate your world, even here within the practical confines of the Longhouse. Some weavers whisper of Landvitir, the land spirits, who might bless or curse a loom, depending on how they are honored. You've heard stories of a weaver whose threads inexplicably tangled every night until she left a small offering of milk and honey by her loom. You don't actively believe in such things, yet you find yourself, almost unconsciously, making sure your loom is always clean, and that no thread is left haphazardly cut. It's a small ritual, a quiet acknowledgement of the unseen forces that might influence your craft. This blend of pragmatism and subtle adherence to old beliefs is a common thread in Viking life, where the visible and invisible worlds often intertwined. The communal atmosphere of the Longhouse shifts as the evening progresses. The sounds of children have long since faded into sleep, their soft breathing a quiet counterpoint to the crackle of the fire. The men, having finished their evening chores, gather around the hearth, their voices a low murmur as they tell stories or discuss the day's events. Sometimes the skald, if one is visiting, will begin to chant old sagas, his voice rising and falling in dramatic cadences, weaving tales of gods and heroes, of battles and distant journeys. You listen, your mind absorbing the narratives even as your hands continue their ceaseless work. These stories are the entertainment of your world, a window into a grander, more dangerous existence than your own quiet life at the loom. A gentle hum often accompanies your weaving, a wordless tune that rises from your throat almost without conscious thought. It's a simple melody, one that your mother taught you, a tune meant to keep the rhythm of the loom steady and your mind focused. The wool against your fingers feels rough, yet strangely comforting, a constant reminder of the raw materials you transform. You might pause briefly to rub your aching neck, feeling the knots of tension that have built up over the day. but the urge to finish this section, to complete the length of cloth, is strong. It's a quiet determination that pushes you forward, one thread at a time, into the depths of the Viking night. As the Longhouse settles into the deeper quiet of the night, your work continues under the flickering lamplight. The rhythmic thunk of the batten is a constant, almost hypnotic sound, a counterpoint to the crackle of the fire and the soft breathing of the sleeping occupants. Your fingers, now moving with an almost autonomous grace, continue to guide the weft thread through the warp, pushing it down with practiced force. The finished cloth grows steadily, a tangible testament to your tireless efforts. You often reflect on the lifespan of the cloth you produce. It's not destined for a museum or a display. It's meant to be used, worn, and eventually worn out. The tunics and cloaks you weave will be subjected to the harsh realities of Viking life. Mud, sweat, blood, the relentless cold, the abrasive wear of daily tasks. They will be patched and repaired until they are little more than a collection of rags, then perhaps repurposed as insulation or fire starters. This impermanence doesn't diminish your pride. If anything, it enhances it. The beauty of your craft lies in its utility, its direct contribution to the survival and comfort of your community. It's a stark contrast to the fleeting pleasures of a celebratory feast or the temporary thrill of a successful raid. There's a subtle debate among weavers about the best method for fulling wool, the process of thickening and shrinking the woven fabric to make it denser and more resistant to water. Some advocate for vigorous beating and trampling in a trough of warm, soapy water, while others swear by a more gentle, prolonged soaking. You favor the more vigorous method, finding that the resulting cloth is far more robust, though it takes a greater toll on your arms and legs. It's a small point of contention, but one that speaks to the nuanced knowledge held by craftspeople in this era, where every technique had its proponents and detractors. The air around you carries the rich, complex scent of a longhouse settling down for the night. The deep, earthy aroma of the peat fire, the faint smell of livestock from the far end, and the more immediate, sharper scent of lanolin and freshly woven wool from your loom. You might occasionally hear the soft rustle of someone shifting on their sleeping bench, or the distant howl of a wolf echoing across the landscape, a sound that sends a shiver down your spine despite the warmth of the fire. These sounds and smells are the very fabric of your existence, deeply ingrained in your memory. Your eyes, accustomed to the dim light, focus intently on the threads. Each individual strand holds the potential for warmth, for shelter, for life itself. It's a responsibility you carry with quiet dignity. The hours blend into a continuous flow, the passage of time marked only by the growing length of the cloth and the gradual lowering of the lamp's oil level. You imagine the future wearers of this fabric, whether they are warriors bracing against a sea spray, farmers toiling in the fields, or children playing in the snow. Your work is a silent, constant act of care, a weaving together of protection and survival, thread by painstaking thread, under the watchful, ancient gaze of the Viking night. The same steady glow of the oil lamp that illuminates your work at the loom also falls upon the hands of a leatherworker in a settlement further down the fjord. While your fingers are engaged in the rhythmic dance of warp and weft, creating the soft, pliant barrier of wool, his calloused hands are engaged in the tougher, more resistant work of shaping hides into essential items for survival. The air in his small, enclosed workshop, often a lean-to attached to a larger longhouse, is thick with the pungent, earthy smell of tanned leather and the metallic tang of iron tools. He sits hunched over a piece of cured hide, his brow furrowed in concentration as he uses a sharpened bone tool to score a line for a new seam on what will become a pair of sturdy boots. The soft scrape of the bone against the tough hide is his rhythm, as constant and purposeful as your loom's thud. These boots, like your woven fabric, are not luxuries. They are necessities, protecting feet from the cold, the sharp rocks, and the unforgiving terrain. The leatherworker, a man named Halfdan, carefully punches holes along the scored line with an awl. The sharp, piercing sound a stark contrast to the softer sounds of your longhouse. His hands, scarred and strong, then begin the painstaking process of lacing the leather together with thin strips of sinew, pulling each stitch taut with a grunt of effort. He thinks about the journey of this hide, from the wild elk taken down by hunters to the arduous process of tanning, a long, smelly affair involving brains, urine, and bark. It's a process that takes weeks, sometimes months, a test of patience and endurance, much like the months it takes you to process wool from sheep to finished fabric. Both of you are alchemists in your own way, transforming raw, animalistic materials into something usable and vital. Meanwhile, back in your longhouse, you pause to adjust a tension weight on your loom, feeling the familiar ache in your lower back. The fire, now banked down for the night, casts a comforting warmth. You can hear the soft snoring of your younger brother from his sleeping bench, and the occasional whimper of one of the dogs dreaming by the hearth. Your thoughts drift to the next garment you will make, perhaps a thick, lined cloak for a warrior. You imagine the feel of the finished garment, the weight of it, the way it will shed water, offering a vital layer of protection against the brutal elements. You mentally review the pattern for the inner lining, a different, softer weave for comfort against the skin. Halfdan, the leatherworker, finishes lacing one boot and holds it up to the dim light, turning it over in his hands. He notices a slight imperfection in the stitching, a loose loop that needs to be tightened. He sighs, the familiar self-criticism of a true craftsman. Better to fix it now, he mutters to himself, than have a warrior's foot freeze on a long march. He thinks of the harshness of life outside, the frozen ground, the need for absolute reliability in every piece of equipment. A Viking warrior's life, while romanticized in sagas, was often a miserable experience of cold, hunger, and the constant threat of injury or death. Historians often debate whether the individual warrior felt true loyalty to their jarl or more to the promise of plunder. Either way, well-made gear was a more reliable companion than any lord. The same cold wind that whips through your longhouse's gaps also carries the scent of pine and damp earth to Halfdan's small workshop, a shared atmospheric breath that unites your disparate, yet equally vital, labors. The longhouse is now truly quiet, save for the gentle crackle of the banked fire and the soft sounds of sleeping breaths. Outside, the moon, if visible through the clouds, casts a silvery glow over the snow-covered landscape. You are still at your loom, the last weaver awake, driven by the need to complete a particular length of cloth. The small oil lamp, now needing to be refilled soon, flickers, casting dancing shadows that make the long, unfinished fabric seem to sway in the dim light. Your fingers, though tired, move with a determined purpose. The raw wool, once just a matted fleece, has been transformed into a sturdy, tightly woven textile. You run a calloused thumb over the finished section, feeling the subtle texture of the double weft. This isn't just fabric. It's a testament to countless hours of labor, a physical manifestation of skill, patience, and resilience. There's a quiet satisfaction in this tangible creation, a feeling that transcends the ache in your shoulders and the dull throb in your wrists. You reflect on the strange, almost magical transformation that occurs at the loom. Loose fibers become strong threads, and disparate threads intertwine to form a cohesive whole. It's a process that mirrors life itself, where individual efforts combine to create something larger, more enduring. You think of the countless generations of weavers who have sat at similar looms, their hands performing the same ancient dance, their lives bound by the same rhythms of creation and necessity. There's a powerful sense of connection to this lineage, a feeling that you are part of something much larger than yourself. The air is cool now, despite the fire, and you can feel the bite of the evening air creeping in from the gaps in the plank walls. You pull your wool shawl tighter around your shoulders, grateful for its warmth. The scent of damp earth and wood smoke is ever present, a comforting, familiar aroma. You hear a faint drip, drip, drip from a spot in the roof, a reminder of the constant battle against the elements, even within the shelter of the Longhouse. It's a small sound, but one that underscores the fragility of comfort and the constant need for vigilance. You glance at the finished portion of the cloth again, visualizing its future use. Perhaps it will be cut and sewn into a cloak for a hunter, providing crucial protection against the biting winds of winter. Or maybe it will be traded for goods from distant lands, becoming a small, vital link in the network of Viking trade. This thought brings a quiet sense of pride. Your work, though humble, contributes directly to the well-being and prosperity of your community, allowing them to venture out into the world or to simply survive the harsh realities of their northern existence. It is a peculiar form of wealth, measured not in gleaming silver or intricate jewelry, but in the sturdy, practical warmth of the fabric you bring into being, thread by painstaking thread, as the long night unfolds around you. The last of the oil in the lamp finally sputters and dies, plunging your corner of the Longhouse into deeper shadow. Only the faint, rosy glow from the embers of the central hearth now illuminates your loom, casting long, dancing shadows that seem to stretch and recede with every small shift of air. Your fingers, guided by muscle memory and the ingrained patterns in your mind, continue to work for a few more moments before you finally decide to pause for the night. The loom stands silent now, the unfinished cloth hanging like a promise in the darkness. You stretch, feeling the delicious relief as your muscles unwind after hours of continuous, repetitive motion. Your back protests with a series of soft clicks and your shoulders feel stiff. You rub your aching wrists, the warmth from your palms a small comfort. There's a profound sense of exhaustion, a deep, bone-weary tiredness that is the natural outcome of a day spent in honest labor. But with it comes a quiet satisfaction, the kind that only comes from having created something tangible and necessary. You think about the nature of time in your world. It isn't measured by clocks or precise hours, but by the rise and fall of the sun, the phases of the moon, the changing seasons, and the progress of your work. A day is marked by the length of cloth woven, a season by the harvest of wool and the preparations for winter. This natural rhythm, though demanding, feels deeply connected to the earth and its cycles. It's a rhythm that historians often struggle to fully grasp, accustomed as they are to the segmented, precise measurements of modern life. For you, time is fluid, a continuous flow, punctuated by the milestones of creation and survival. The Longhouse is now a world of whispers and soft sounds. The deep breathing of your family, the occasional rustle of straw as livestock settle deeper into their sleep, and the distant, mournful cry of an owl from the woods outside. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and the lingering aroma of wood smoke. You shiver slightly, pulling your worn woolen blanket closer as you make your way back to your sleeping bench. The rough wool feels familiar against your skin, a comfort born of years of use lying on the hard sleeping bench. You close your eyes, but your mind still hums with the day's work. You can almost feel the threads between your fingers, the rhythmic thud of the batten echoing softly in your thoughts. Even in sleep, your hands might subtly twitch, practicing the motions of the loom. This deep immersion in your craft isn't just a job, it's a way of life, a profound connection to the materials you transform and the community you serve. You drift towards sleep, the sounds and smells of the Longhouse fading into a dreamscape, your mind a quiet canvas where the patterns of wool and destiny intertwine, waiting for the dawn to bring another day of creation. You wake in the pre-dawn chill, roused not by an alarm, but by the subtle shift in the Longhouse's atmosphere, the quiet stirrings of others, the faint renewal of activity around the central hearth. The rough wool of your sleeping tunic scratches your skin, a constant, familiar sensation. Your body aches in the familiar places, the lower back, the shoulders, the persistent throb in your wrists, but it's a deep, honest ache, the mark of a day spent in productive labor. The air is thick with the sense of damp earth, sleeping bodies, and the deep, resonant smell of the peat fire, now being coaxed back into a brighter flame. As you slowly rise, you hear the lowing of the cattle in their stalls at the far end of the Longhouse, a soft, guttural sound that blends with the rustle of straw. The distant bleating of sheep outside reminds you of the source of your livelihood. Your first task, before even a mouthful of the thin, warming porridge, is to assess the loom. You move through the dim, smoky Longhouse, the wooden floor cold beneath your bare feet, towards the sturdy wooden frame that dominates your days. The unfinished cloth hangs patiently, waiting for your hands to resume their work. You examine the warp threads from yesterday, checking their tension, making sure no stray fibers have tangled overnight. This morning ritual is a quiet meditation, a way to reconnect with the work and prepare your mind for the hours ahead. You run your calloused fingers over the finished sections, feeling the tight, durable weave, a small sense of pride unfurling in your chest. This isn't just about producing fabric. It's about ensuring the survival and comfort of your family and community in a harsh, unforgiving world. There's a peculiar satisfaction in knowing that your labor contributes directly to their warmth and protection. You think about the unique properties of wool in your climate. Unlike flax or other plant fibers, wool retains its insulating properties even when wet, a crucial advantage in the damp, often freezing conditions of the north. This knowledge, passed down through generations, shapes your appreciation for the material you work with. There's a commonly held belief that wool, when spun under a full moon, gains extra strength and warmth, a folk tip that you've heard discussed by the older women in the Longhouse, though you rely more on careful preparation and meticulous weaving than on lunar cycles. As the Longhouse slowly awakens around you, the sounds begin to build. The clatter of wooden bowls, the hushed conversations, the crackle of the rekindled fire, and the distant shouts of men preparing for their day's work. You settle back at the loom, your hands finding their familiar rhythm. The first thud of the batten echoes in the waking Longhouse, a steady beat that will accompany you through another day of transforming raw fibers into the very fabric of life. It is a life of continuous, quiet effort, woven into the larger tapestry of the Viking age, one thread at a time. The very same rhythmic thud of the batten that punctuates your morning in the Longhouse, as you coax unruly wool into ordered patterns, also resonates in a different form through the daily toil of a farmer just beyond the settlement. While you are focused on the indoor craft of weaving warmth, he is engaged in the outdoor struggle of coaxing sustenance from the unforgiving land. The air in his small, open field is cold and sharp, carrying the scent of damp earth, wood smoke from distant homesteads, and the faint, lingering odor of animal manure, enriching the soil. He hunches over his wooden plow, his back a rigid line against the gray sky, as his oxen, their breath pluming in the crisp air, strain to pull the simple implement through the stubbornly frozen ground. The creak and groan of the plow, the heavy snorts of the oxen, and the rhythmic thump-scrape of the share breaking the earth are his constant companions, a symphony of hard-won progress. These sounds are as deeply ingrained in his life as the sound of your loom is in yours. The farmer, a man named Bjorn, pauses to rub a gloved hand across his brow, feeling the chill bite at his exposed skin. His fingers, gnarled and thick, are accustomed to the feel of rough wood and cold metal. He thinks about the short growing season, the ever-present threat of frost, and the constant worry of a poor harvest. His existence is a gamble against the whims of nature, a stark contrast to the more predictable, though equally demanding, work of the loom. Yet both your lives are bound by the same fundamental need: to provide for your community's survival. He might mutter a quiet prayer to Thor for good weather, a folk belief woven into the fabric of his daily struggle, much like the superstitions that subtly influence your weaving. Meanwhile, back in the Longhouse, you are taking a short break, sipping on a mug of weak, warm ale. The familiar comfort of the Longhouse walls surrounds you, a stark contrast to the biting wind you know is lashing outside. You watch a small child playing with a wooden toy near the hearth, their giggles a pure, innocent sound. The scent of simmering porridge and damp wood fills your nostrils, a gentle reminder of the domestic calm within these walls. You appreciate these small moments of respite, knowing the relentless nature of the work that awaits you. You think of the farmer, out in the elements, battling the cold and the stubborn earth, and you feel a quiet kinship, a shared understanding of the unyielding demands of this world. Bjorn, out in the field, spots a single, resilient crow landing near his freshly turned furrow, its dark eyes seemingly judging his progress. He shouts at it, a gruff, good-natured warning, knowing that every seed is precious. Historians often debate the average yield of grain in the Viking Age, how much food could genuinely be extracted from a given plot of land. For Bjorn, it's not an academic question, it's the difference between a full belly and gnawing hunger. He knows his family, and indeed your family, depends on the success of his labor. His humor is often biting, directed at the relentless demands of the soil. They say the earth provides, he grumbles to himself, but she certainly makes you work for it, piece by miserable piece. The sharp, biting wind that whips through your longhouse's smoke hole, carrying the scent of peat, also carries the scent of upturned earth and the distant bleating of sheep to Bjorn, linking your two worlds in an invisible current of survival. As the day slowly draws to a close, giving way to the longer, darker hours of the Nordic night, you find yourself still at the loom, the rhythmic thud of the batten a steady drumbeat in the quietening longhouse. The light from the banked hearth fire is now the primary illumination, casting a warm, dancing glow on the wooden frame of the loom and the ever-growing length of woven cloths. Your muscles ache, a deep, pervasive weariness that has become a familiar companion, but there's a quiet sense of accomplishment in the rising pile of finished fabric beside you. You reflect on the enduring quality of the textiles you produce. Unlike the ephemeral nature of a successful hunt or a bountiful harvest, the cloth you weave has a longer, more tangible life. It will clothe generations, provide warmth, and serve as a constant reminder of the skill and dedication of its maker. Historians still marvel at the preservation of Viking textiles found in burial mounds and archaeological sites, their intricate patterns and robust weaves speaking volumes about the craftsmanship of your ancestors. For you, this is not abstract history. It is your living legacy, woven into every thread. There's a subtle magic in the transformation you facilitate. From raw, unkempt fibers, you create order, beauty, and utility. This act of creation is deeply satisfying, a counterpoint to the often harsh and unpredictable nature of your world. You consider the various superstitions surrounding the loom. Some believe that singing specific chants while weaving can imbue the cloth with protective qualities, while others swear that leaving a small offering of ale by the loom at the end of the day ensures good fortune for the next. You find yourself, almost instinctively, leaving a small, unused bobbin of thread by the loom's base as you prepare to finish for the night. A small, personal ritual, a quiet nod to the unseen forces that may govern your craft. The Longhouse is now shrouded in the deep stillness of the night. The sounds of human activity have faded into the soft breathing of sleepers, the occasional shift of the animals, and the persistent, gentle crackle of the embers. The air, though cool, is rich with the comforting sense of wood smoke and dry hay. You can feel the chill creeping in from the outside, a reminder of the unforgiving nature of the northern climate, but the thick, woven fabric you've created offers a tangible sense of defiance against it. You carefully remove the finished length of cloth from the loom, the rough wool feeling substantial and satisfying in your hands. You fold it meticulously, the act a final gesture of respect for the hours of labor it represents. This isn't just a piece of cloth, it's a shield against the cold, a vessel for warmth, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. As you extinguish the last flickering light, casting your corner of the Longhouse into complete darkness, you carry the scent of wool and the quiet hum of the loom with you. Your mind, though weary, is already anticipating the patterns and textures of tomorrow, knowing that with the dawn, the ancient rhythm of creation will begin anew. As the echoes of the Viking Longhouse fade into the quiet hum of your own surroundings, we leave behind the world of the weaver, a life defined by thread and loom, by patience and purpose. It was a life often overlooked in the sagas of grand adventures, yet it was as fundamental to survival as any shield or sword. The weaver, with calloused hands and an unwavering spirit, transformed raw materials into the very fabric of existence, providing warmth, shelter, and a subtle beauty to a world that demanded resilience. This journey through the daily life of a Viking weaver reminds us that history isn't just about kings and battles. It's about the intricate, often unseen, labors of ordinary people who shaped their world with their hands and their ingenuity. The scent of wood smoke, the feel of rough wool, the rhythmic thud of the batten, these were the sensations that anchored their lives, connecting them deeply to their environment and to each other. Their craft, while demanding, was also a source of quiet pride and self-sufficiency, a testament to the enduring human capacity to create and to thrive, even in the harshest of conditions. So, as you drift further into sleep, perhaps imagine the comforting weight of a hand-woven blanket or the subtle scent of natural fibers. Consider the unseen threads that connect our modern lives to those of the past, the human need for warmth, for shelter, for purpose. The Viking weaver's story is a gentle reminder that true strength often lies in quiet persistence, in the repetitive acts of creation that sustain us all. May your dreams be as peaceful and as deep as the stillness of a longhouse in the heart of a Nordic night.